So I left my water propagations alone for a month and they've turned green. I was actually very surprised that this happens because I rarely change the water when I'm at home and they never turn green. I have put the sudden algae growth down to the fact that it is spring now in Australia and really warming up. I obviously wasn't adding fresh water to the vessels during this time, so there was no flow of oxygen. The room they were left in gets very warm as well, and I wasn't home to open the windows and let in cool air. Therefore, I accidentally made the perfect breeding ground for algae. The room was warm and bright and there was no fresh oxygen. Now, I don't love the algae growth, but lucky it wasn't the only thing growing. All of the roots on these water propagations more than doubled during this time, which was a nice surprise. It just shows that sometimes you've got to take the good with the bad. Luckily, removing algae is a fairly easy fix, so let's do it now together. To start off with, I am just going to rinse all of the roots. Try to be careful because roots can snap off during this process. Don't worry too much if the roots of your water propagation have a small amount of algae still on them. Keep watching and I'll show you my hack of stopping algae growth in its tracks. Now that the roots are semi-clean, I'm going to turn my attention to the vessels. Some of these water propagations have been in the vessels for months, and this is the first time that I've had algae and the first time I've had to properly wash them. For my water propagations, I top up the water every other week or as needed. Generally, I change the water monthly or less, but this is obviously a unique situation. If your water propagations are frequently growing algae, then there's a few things you can do to stop this. You can swap clear glass for colored glass or even ceramics. This will keep your vessel cooler and stop as much sunlight from getting in, which will stop algae from growing. As always, there is a catch, and doing this means that your roots will grow slower as well. If you're not in a rush to root your plants, then using colored glass or ceramic is perfectly fine. Next is to ensure that you keep a fresh flow of water and oxygen. You can do this by topping them up as needed or go a little bit fancy and add a pump. A pump will keep your water fresh and oxygenated. You need both of these things for a happy, healthy plant. A lack of oxygen in the water will actually kill your plant over time. Water propagations and hydroponic plants need water which is regularly aerated because this produces dissolved oxygen. If the roots aren't getting a fresh supply of oxygen, you may get a rotting plant. This is the same thing that happens to a plant in soil when you overwater it. Now back to the refill. I am lucky to live somewhere where the tap water is fine to use on houseplants. If this isn't the case for you, you can try rainwater or bottled water. For a healthy water propagation, you want to make sure that your plant doesn't fall too far into the water. Keep your foliage and about an inch of the stem above the waterline. All of these water propagations are now ready to transfer to soil. As a general rule, you want your roots to be at least an inch long. I usually wait until they are a little bit longer and have first and secondary roots. I also generally really like the look of water propagations. I think they're so pretty in their glass vessels, and I really enjoy the process of watching the roots grow. You can also keep a lot of houseplants in water full time. Personally, I have 2 Monsteras and a peace lily, which have been in hydroponic for over a year now. I add a water-soluble fertilizer monthly to make sure that they're getting all the nutrients they need. All 3 are growing well and producing new foliage, and the peace lily is flowering. As you can see, I've moved my Ficus Lyrata propagation into an amber glass vessel. This is because there was still a lot of algae on the roots, and I didn't want to try and scrub it off and risk damaging the plant. And that's it, they're refreshed and back on my plant shelf. Find the how-to for each of these plants on my channel.